Hey you guys, how you doing? Welcome back. Welcome back to another session of the Battered series. Listen, there are so many social workers here. I think this is definitely a safe space. Most definitely. But I think that's their favorite word too. This is a safe space. So today we're going to have a very interesting conversation in this safe space. Today we are talking about the cycle of violence. So of course we've had a really interesting discussion so far. Last week we were talking about the profile of the abuser. Today we are going a little deeper with the conversation. We're talking about the cycle of violence. We welcome back Pastor Martin, who is here with us. Of course, you're not Diana. And you welcome back, Pastor Martin. All right, so Pastor Martin is also driving, so we're having a little mercy on him today. Let's go straight into the conversation. Let's talk about the cycle of violence. Where does the cycle start with this whole cycle of violence? And of course, we are talking about intimate partner abuse. We welcome Pastor Martin. Where does the cycle start?
Well, I'm going to use a basically four-step cycle of abuse. So the cycle always starts with the building up of the tension or whatever the situation is that the abuser feels starts or is the cause of this thing. It could be anything. Something as the food have too much salt in it, or he didn't like the way that you looked at somebody else, or she didn't like the way that you looked at somebody else. So that's the building of the tension. Yeah. So you could feel the atmosphere, the environment change. Then we have the incident itself, the abuse, the act that happens. Most times that causes the victim to leave the household or to feel some type of way. Then the abuser now will go into what we call reconciliation. So you get the I'm sorry, you get the flowers, you get the grand gestures to try to prove to you that they really didn't mean it. You get the guilt trip as well. This is what you made me do is because I love you so much. Yeah. And then from that, most times the victim goes back for a period of calm. Yeah. And that calm period makes you believe that everything is okay until the cycle starts right back over again, until some trigger happens and it goes to that same cycle there. And most of the times, that is the story that you get from victims of abuse.
Wow, this is so interesting. What's my first question? I have so many from just this explanation. Wow. Okay, let's break it down. Let's start from from the first one, and we're going to the four pieces. So first, you said that we have the tension. Let's talk about the tension period. Why does the abuser create such an environment over a simple disagreement or something like that? Angie and Kiana, welcome to the conversation.
Okay, with the tension building, this is when they are easily aggravated because they have a lot of verbal and emotional abuse during that time. So they say very hurtful things to you that will really play on your emotions. And they get angry for trivial matters. And it's all about power and control. And this is the time when you're in an abusive relationship and you see it really get into that tension stage. That's the time you should really pack your bag. That's the time you will be able to move out easier, because after that becomes the battering. And with the battering, there is a lot of physical abuse.
To add to what both of them have said, with the tension building, with that stage, the victim feels like they're walking on eggshells. So in some of the previous videos, I think I mentioned, you really don't know what mood you will be getting that day. And so that's what happens with the tension building. You're not sure what to do, how to act, what kind of personality you may be getting, because again, everything is leading up to the other cycle. Most times persons think that the cycle begins with battering, but it doesn't begin with the battering. And that's why understanding the tension building is very important in learning or knowing about the cycle of abuse.
All right, so we spoke about the tension building. Let's talk about the battering. How does the abuser not, let me ask this question, and you guys could give an opinion or you could give me an educated response on this. Does the abuser not love the person that they're battering? They're in a relationship with somebody that they hate. Is that why this is leading to the battering?
I wouldn't say that they're in a relationship with someone they hurt, because first of all, there was physical attraction, which grew into a relationship, but I need for the viewers to remember that it is all about power and control. You are mine. What I ask you to do, you need to do without question, because I am the authoritative one over you, and it's just so amazing how little things can become big things for some people. And when you do not adhere to their commands, or even the degree, I should say, that's when the battering starts. And sometimes it starts with little things. They just pass and they just do you're not hearing, a little thing like that. Next thing you find yourself getting kicks, punches, and it is, I often wonder, why is it that the abuser always attacks the face? It's like they want people to see that I am in charge of you. So this is the sign I'm living, showing that I am the authoritative one. And it's kicking, it's choking, it's punching, it's pulling up the hair, stepping on the toes, all of these things that have to do with the physical. That's what the battering is concerned. And when you see it goes out of control now, sometimes it leads to death. So I am urging that as you viewers listen to what we are sharing today, that you take it into consideration that you do not succumb to the abuser's attack.
I would like to add also when we talk the cycle of abuse, we could also add there a generational cycle of abuse within socialization. So where the abuser believes that this is how a relationship must be conducted, where physical blows is a normal part of a relationship. I had a client once in front of the spouse. He indicated that he knows when his spouse is ready, and this is in what the term that he used. He knows when she's ready for to lash. And for them, that is a normal part of the relationship. Because that is what he has seen. That is what she saw growing up. So both the abuser and the abused believe that type of violence within the relationship was something normal and customary in most relationships.
And I like that you said normal, because that's the behavior that was learned. That's the behavior that was exposed to them. And especially as child witness, that's what you see. So automatically you learn these behaviors involuntarily. And if there is not proper intervention for you to get help, you grow up with it as an adult, and then you continue with the cycle because that's what was learned.
And sometimes you hear, sorry to cut you short, but sometimes you hear person saying, if he don't hit me, he don't love me. That is not normal. That can never be okay.
That's it.
You and bruising you, breaking your jaw, breaking your arm, causing any kind of physical harm is not an indication of love. So if you hear someone says that, there is something seriously wrong with that individual.
So based on the information you guys have given me, I will come to my own conclusion and say that there is no love there. Because without freedom, I cannot see how love can exist without freedom. And love has to be a choice. So then, not to all the viewers, not to everyone listening, there is no love. There is control, there is probably obsession, there is possession, but there is no love. let's move on to the next part of this. We're talking about reconciliation. Am I correct, Pastor Martin?
Yes, reconciliation.
Right. So let's talk about reconciliation. Let's start. Anybody, just start the ball rolling. What happens during that phase, and why is it so bubbly, and why are the victims falling for it over and over again?
Okay.
Well, reconciliation is where manipulation comes in, and to underscore, the reason why the victims fall for it several times is because most of the time the victim loves. Yeah? And I believe, as my colleague stated there, she said, sometimes I believe if you don't hit me, you don't love me. So the reconciliation is basically the manipulation of the abuser, yeah, to try to guilt trip the abused into coming back. And because that abuser is basically depending on, I would say, two things basically: the insecurity or the dependency of the abused, and the using that now as what I call a vice grip to ensure that they constantly keep them in place, even if they try to leave.
Yes, very well, very well. Because you see, during that time, they are very apologetic. Now, the victim would like the relationship to work, especially if you have been in that relationship for a long time and there are children involved. So they try to be patient and have that hope that one day something will happen. But you see the irony in this, with that cycle, that vicious cycle that we call it, they will portray who they want you to see at the time. So sometimes you find that behavior that the victim is hoping for, the abuser gives it for 2 weeks. And let me tell you, during that time, they treat you so well. You have perfect and excellent behavior. You get gifts, dinners, whatever you want, that's what is provided. You know, until you are comfortable again and have a snatch. And the bad thing about it, every time the abuse escalates, so it gets worse and worse. There is no better when you see the manipulative stage comes in. So let's just hope for proper intervention, timely intervention, so you can be saved.
Also, sometimes the abuser will tell the victim, I will change. That is something that is being said a lot. I will change. Things will get better. And like my colleague said, you've never been brought to dinner, you'll go and have the most expensive dinner you've ever had in your entire life. The abuser might say, I will get help, I will go to counseling, I will do whatever. They will cry, they will be on their knees begging you, please don't leave, I will change, things will become better. And this stage is also called the manipulation stage, the honeymoon stage. So you know, when a couple gets married and they go on their honeymoon, it's a time where things are nice and everything is going good, you're enjoying each other's company. That is what happens in that cycle of the abuse, because the whole idea of the manipulation stage is to have the victim believe that things will be better, that I made a mistake, it will not happen again. But sadly, it continues to happen, and it gets to a point where the victim will no longer get the expensive gifts and the dinners and all of those things, because like my colleague said, it has escalated, and the abuser will no longer see the need to do any of those things because they have you where they need you, or exactly where they want you. And so at that point, if the victim ever thought about leaving the relationship because of those behaviors that happen in this stage, they will stay. And sadly, it just gets worse.
Wow. You're right. Let me just take this in part, because this abuser is putting the victim through all of this. okay, I could understand the first time the victim forgives. Say, yeah, I love this guy, it was probably a mistake. I forgive him. Let's make it work. The second time, okay, yeah, right, I love this guy. It was a mistake. He's really sorry. He even cried. He bought me gifts. The third time, when does it sink into what is the block in the victim's mind? You cannot don't tell me love. Because listen, love is not stupid. Love is a lot of things. Love is not stupid. Love is not ignorant. Love sees things. What is the block in the victim's mind? Well, Pastor Martin hinted at dependency and all that. Help me.
Nicola, there is something called emotional dependency. You see, emotional dependency, it's like you entwined with that individual, especially sometimes as the individual you know all your life. And when I tell you all your life, sometimes it starts as early as 12 because of poverty, right? Sometimes you have, let's just look at a woman with so many children and she looks for help. And this gentleman comes and say, I will help you with this child. He provides everything for that child, right? When that child gets old enough, he owns the child. He says, that's payment for me now. So then you find that young lady that grew up in that kind of environment has no choice in the matter. And she feels like I owe him because he did so much for me. And it's because of him that I am where I am today. Emotional dependency is something that sometimes we cannot even fathom because of the intertwine, what it is to be inside of, that is something else. So that's one of the reasons why they cannot leave. And later on, we will talk about why women stay in abusive relationships. And then further, you and the other viewers will understand and we will be less judgmental. And because the society we live in, they like to say, why you cannot leave? What are you staying there for? But what is in place for them to leave? Do you have a plan? Will you help them take care of their 5 children? Will you build a home? Will you provide for them? It is not just saying, get up and leave. It's easy for you to say because you're out of the situation. Put yourself in it. You might not even be able to lace that shoe. You understand?
Thank you so much. I got just the passionate answer that I was looking for. Thank you so much. Now, let's talk.
Even just to add one thing there are some women who stay just to ensure that their children finish school. You understand? Because they are trying to break that said cycle. So they see it as a sacrifice they have to make to ensure that their children finish. And as they finish, they have a plan to leave already. Yes. But they know that. So there are several factors, and we can't just blanket it to the person wants that, or they just want to stay in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Point taken.
All right, so it's not all black and white. It is not as I'm seeing it. It is not just them being like, oh, it's not just a lovey-dovey thing. It's not black and white. There is more. The picture is very bright, very broad, and very colorful. So we're trying to get through each color today. Let's look at the last. Let's look at the last aspect of this cycle of violence. Break it down for us.
So when we talk about the calm, it's basically the abuser presenting themselves to be someone of their word. So I told you that things would be better. So this is just the calm period in which it seems to be better. Many people stay in abusive relationships actually because of the calm. So sometimes when you speak to a victim of abuse, they will say, but they have nice ways. When we're in the calm, they're real nice. When things nice, when it's quiet and it's peaceful. And that is when now the abuser, that's what the abuser uses. And also the victims sometimes go back to think that the person has a tendency to change. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they tend to want to look at them as the calm, that calm phase in which they present themselves. And sometimes that is what keeps them going back because they are hoping that that calm stage will last forever.
And you see, they make them feel so comfortable during that calm stage, so comfortable that they say, yes, my partner is changing. My partner really wants things to work out for us. And lo and behold, here it comes again. Surprise. So unfortunate.
Very unfortunate indeed. Let me just start wrapping things up a little bit as we come to the end. Kiana, do you have anything you wanted to add to this?
I just wanted to add to what Auntie was saying earlier about the manipulation stage. Another thing I wanted to say is that sometimes not the yes, sometimes not sometimes there's a stigma that comes with domestic violence, intimate partner abuse, the shame that is attached to it. And like she said, in our next video, we'll understand why the victims stay. And that is one of the main reasons why victims stay, because of the shame that is attached to it. And it's difficult when you're so deep in it to just get out of it. And unless we understand, the viewers, all of us, because we too are still learning different things about the cycle of abuse. It doesn't, it's like you said, it's not black and white. It's not just one thing and just another thing. There are so many different things that come into play. And I think the last week, Angie was saying, you know, in Trinidad has some of the worst cases of DV, and sometimes the victims come up with so many different ideas. Before, you would think it was as simple as just a punch and a slap, but now it's 10 times worse than just a simple slap and a punch. So, you know, it's not always very easy for the victim to leave. And I think as a society, we need to be more mindful of that. We need to be more compassionate and more willing to help. If there's something we can do, even at least for the kids, if there are kids involved in the abuse, let's try to reach out. Like I said, sometimes you might hear the dispute from your neighbor. Just make a simple phone call and ask the police to intervene. All of those things are ways that we as a society can help to stop the cycle of abuse.
Very well. So then we sum this up with one word, which is support.
Support. All right, so we've heard that word throughout. I think if that word must have been said in every session we've done for Battered so far. Support. Like Kiana likes to say, support, support, support. We need to be supportive one of another, yes. And especially people who are in those situations, they need the support more than the normal person that is not facing it. So definitely support. I have one question that I want one person to answer, and then we're gonna end. We're speaking to a large population of people. How do you differentiate from, is there a one-off? How do you differentiate a one-off from the beginning of a cycle of violence?
You have no one-off. The first one, let that be the last one. Leave one thing.
There are no one-offs.
Yeah. No, that is how you differentiate. You get yourself out, so you wouldn't have to figure it out a second time.
Excellent. That is the A+ answer. No one-offs. First time is the last time. We're not trying to figure out if it's a cycle of violence. This is not something you need to figure out. This is not, if that person is gonna change, that is good for the person. You don't want to stick around to find out because your life may be in danger. Let me just say thank you to the viewers for watching. If you have not joined Nicola Land, go ahead, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. We are sharing great information with you guys. Thank you all for coming. Bye.
Bye.